This is Live with Johnny. Johnny, we are still talking about the war. And y'all, as y'all heard, like there are some soldiers who are not happy. They mentally just checking out, and it's not looking good. So, what we want to do is, let me see here, do something real quick. I want to show you guys. Look at the screen. I want to show you guys this video. Sorry, things are looking loose. I don't know what. Okay, so anyway, here we go. We're gonna take a look at this video. My name is Johnny, and this is Live Johnny. Make sure y'all sharing it to your friends and stuff like that, so we can get the word out there. I would really appreciate it, for real. So let's check this out.
This picture, it's a memory. It's a beautiful day with a special someone with a great smile. This is Fracture. Just upload an image, place your order.
I have a subscription, but I'm not signed in. But we go sign in a second.
American
Here we go.
Sailors jumping overboard.
Listen to
the
this.
Pentagon facing major questions tonight about reports of American sailors jumping overboard from the USS Abraham Lincoln, which has now been deployed in the Middle East for 266 days.
Wow.
It's about 9 months.
That's
9
almost a
months
year.
deployed. 250 of those days, not even with a land stop. This is because they are in the middle of Trump's war with Iran. And that war is taking a toll on sailors aboard who've complained about not having enough food. They've literally gone hungry. And we've heard these complaints, the lack of basic necessities. That includes toothpaste, deodorant, soap. And all of those things add up with an incredibly long deployment that keeps getting extended to dangerously low morale. There are 5,000 American sailors on board.
Wow.
And sources tonight confirmed to CNN that at least one sailor did in fact go overboard earlier this month. That sailor was ultimately rescued. And that follows a shocking Military Times exclusive report, which we detailed on Outfront last night, about multiple attempts by crew members to jump off the ship. One woman who has tried to jump, telling the Military Times he's scared. He thinks he'll get a dishonorable discharge. And just because he was burnt out, his 13-year career is ruined just like that. But tonight, the Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, is denying the reports, saying they're simply untrue. Listen to what he told Newsmax when questioned about the reporting while traveling in Panama.
Completely misrepresented. Listen, we make sure that every ship, every crew, every captain has everything we can provide them at every single moment.
Well, that is not what our Pamela Brown, who was on board the USS Abraham Lincoln last month, heard from some sailors on board. Here's what they told her.
Actually, I would say morale's pretty low, and not just in the division, like in the ship entirely. You know, personally, what helps me is I go to the gym. You know, I'm trying to better myself. You know, every day, but it's hard. The food, I'm sure you heard the food was pretty bad for a couple of months. We were surviving on not a lot, and it takes a lot to push through, persevere, keep going, even when it gets hard.
Well, you heard what he told Pam there, that you heard about the food. There's a time there was not a lot. And in April, USA Today did publish a story about sailors on board going hungry. At the time, Hegseth dismissed those reports too. He called them fake news, but you just heard the crew member there. And it therefore perhaps not a surprise that families with loved ones on board the USS Abraham Lincoln are privately warning each other not to speak out. Outfront is learning from the Military Times and Natalie Oliverio, who broke all of this, that the families fear that if they reveal any more details about the disturbing conditions, it could result in punishment for their loved ones, which adds to the low morale aboard the Lincoln. But if you ask Defense Secretary Hegseth about his strategy for boosting morale, even though he denies that there's any problem whatsoever, I guess to the extent he does address it, he's put out videos like this, lifting weights, working out with U.S. troops, talking about upping testosterone levels for social media, apparently in an effort to
That
I
ain't
guess
even
it
how you
boosts
supposed to
morale.
lift all
Natalie
the way.
Oliverio, the Military Times Pentagon reporter, I mentioned her a few moments ago. She has been breaking all of these details on the USS Lincoln. She's also
Bro,
a
that's
Navy
crazy.
veteran. And Natalie, I'm glad to have you back. And I know you've got more information tonight. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth today, though, says your report about poor conditions. Right, you were talking, specifically people you had spoken to. Whose loved ones had tried to jump overboard, about the shortages of food and soap and basic materials, deodorant. He calls it completely misrepresented. So I wanted to give you a chance to respond to what he's saying.
Thanks for having me back, Aaron. Great to be here. And I appreciate the opportunity to respond. It's not really me that he's responding to. It's the countless sailors who have reached out to Military Times and to other news outlets they trust with their organic photos. Parents who are sharing native chat sessions with their kids, spouses doing the same. These are not fabrications. They're not stretches of the truth. Like you mentioned back in April when the USA Today broke out pictures on the mess decks of what any American would quantify as inadequate nutrition for our service members and our all volunteer force of service members who are in extraordinary conditions right now. I think gaslighting our force is disrespectful, and at a minimum, they deserve transparency and accountability.
Yeah, at a minimum. And you speak as a Navy veteran, of course, Natalie. So I guess in that context, I want to ask you about what Hegseth, what appears to be his strategy for boosting morale. Now, of course, he denies it's a problem, but to the extent, that he's trying to motivate people, right? There's the videos he's posting on social media where he's lifting weights there and he's working out with U.S. troops, or he posted that post that, of course, you've seen about, we're going to be testing testosterone and upping the testosterone levels for our force. How is all that landing with actual
Why is he doing all that?
Members of the Navy?
Rockily, I think some service members are concerned because altering your hormones, they come with a host of issues that not everyone can predict. So not everyone is really riled up for more testosterone. There are a lot of service members who find it to be really contradictory and unfair in the face of rejecting gender affirming care in other areas of the military. But I can tell you from my experience that morale makes a difference underway. Morale has been planned for decades, such as when you're out at sea for 45 days, you get to have 2 beers. You get to have a Seal Beach picnic where you put down the nets on the flight deck, maybe take a swim call, put on some music, get cozy on the non-skid, and just, have some time together, camaraderie. Yeah, it's combat operations. Maybe it's not sunshine and Seal Beach picnics, but we can do a whole lot better knowing that these morale milestones are the markers service members and sailors look forward to get them through some of the most strenuous and difficult times underway.
Senator, I appreciate your time. Hegseth says today that these reports aboard the ship are completely misrepresented. By the way, I'll just remind everybody that, for example, when it came to Trump getting off Air Force One and the catering car, all that was completely denied as false too. And of course it was true. So, they deny things whether they're true or not. So it's hard to know. But he says the troops have everything they need, even though, of course, we've seen the images of inadequate food. You heard the sailor there speaking to our Pamela Brown. So do you believe anything that Hegseth is saying?
Hegseth trying to characterize these powerful, credible reports as fake news is really a disservice and profoundly disrespectful to the sailors who are on the USS Abraham Lincoln and enduring these hardships. They are more than just quality of life threats. Lack of sufficient food, toothpaste, soap, hot water. Okay, that's quality of life maybe, but it affects morale and it exacerbates stress, which is reflected in that sailor going overboard. But
that's crazy that our sailors have to go through that. And then they always talk about being there for the troops or being there for the the men in blue. That's not what this is. They're gonna make people not want to go and be in the army and the service and things like that. Because what person would want to send their child to conditions like that? This is horrible. I'm sorry, I got a fly in here. I need to kill. Thanks, Joshua. Joshua Pollard Sr. But no doubt, we gotta do better for that, for our troops. I'm not even in the service, and I look at that like that's crazy. And the fact that President Trump almost got he knows for a fact like people are trying to assassinate him. Like he knows for a fact. But for him to slip out of that plane and then keep everybody else on a plane that was targeted for him to be assassinated, it's almost like he was trying to take out his whole cabinet. And if that was the case, then he could have been like, yeah, it's a national emergency because everybody on my cabinet got murdered and we ain't gonna have no elections. See? And now the people around him understand that. Caroline Leavitt, her I'm sorry. This is supposed to be a test. Let me get back with y'all.